his list is pretty stock, pretty boring stuff. I mean, he's got Pack Rat, Lifebane, Zombie, Desecration Demon, Grey Merchant, Thoughtseize, Hero's Downfall, Underworld Connections, Devour Flesh, all 4 of us to go along with 2 Bio Blights, and his lands, 19 Swamps, 4 Mutavaults, and this go around he's playing 3 Temple of Silence. Sometimes he plays 3 Temple of Deceits, but because black-white mid-range is a thing, if he's able to actually connect with like a card like a Nightfield Spectre, for example, he'd be able to cast some of those white cards. So that's pretty much it. I mean, this is as stock as it gets, man.
Yeah, I'm actually curious with the temple thing. I think there is some argument to be made for playing one of a variety of temples because you're going to be playing against all sorts of different opponents. But if there's a color you expect to either come up more often or be the most significant one that you're turning out with Nightveil Spectre, there's an argument just to have 3 or 4 of the best one.
He's going to be playing against Alec Badham. Badham is playing the black-red devotion list that Eric Froelich did a nice job with at Grand Prix Cincinnati along with David Ochoa. Froelich making top 16 at that tournament. This deck's starting to pick up some real traction here. The red splash is for Rakdos' return and a couple of cards out of the sideboard. So nothing crazy going on here. It's just another variant.
Yeah, main deck dread board, 2 Rakdos returns, and the sideboard, he's got access to Slaughter Games and Bizia Mortars. So pretty stock stuff.
Here's a Swamp, and here's a Thoughtseize. So we're going to trade some Thoughtseizes here. Turtenwald, he's got a Pack Rat, a Devour Flesh, a Grey Merchant along with the Lifebane Zombie, and a Mutavault of his own. So not a lot of lands here, but a really, really solid hand.
Yeah, and Pack Rat is still the most powerful tool in the mirror match. It's gone down in power a little bit with the introduction of Bio Blight to the format, but still one of the defining characteristics of the Black Mirror match.
Both players have 2 copies of Bio Blight in their deck. As you see, Badham's going to write down the cards. He's going to take the Pack Rat. And Turtenwald's going to have to go looking for some lands here. Now, of course, you have to believe that one place that he is very, very comfortable is in the Black Devotion mirror.
Yeah, and the games are typically very card advantage oriented. Underworld Connections means a lot. The discard spells are really important, although they can be bad draws late in the game. The games used to be all about Pack Rat, but that dynamic shifted a little bit as the removal's a little bit better against it, and so card advantage is probably the most critical tool.
Temple of Malice will allow Badham to scry, leaves the card on top. This is a Lifebane Zombie, so Turtenwald's going to get to take a look at the grip, and that's 4 lands. Mutavault and Blood Crypt among those 2 swamps. Badham's going to untap. He will take a draw. It's a copy of Dreadbore, so he can take care of the Lifebane Zombie now if he'd like, and it looks like he is going to do just that. Again, he's just got a bunch of lands in his hand, so he's looking for action as the 3-1 is taken care of.
And you may wonder, why is he Dreadboring right now? The problem is, of course, Alec has no other spells in his hand, and he wants to protect himself a little bit against a discard spell.
Turtenwald draws his card, considering his actions, may fire in with a Mutavault here, and that's exactly what he's going to do. So Badham's going to go down to 16. Turtenwald with no land to play just has to kick it back over to Alec, who will take a draw. It's a Swamp. So he can fire up with his Mutavault if he'd like, and he will. So Turtenwald will go down to 16 as well. We'll see Badham play a land here. It'll be the Blood Crypt tapped and just pass the turn back. So both these players looking for something. Turtenwald looking for lands and Badham looking for spells.
Yeah, and you can tell how much card advantage matters in this matchup because if either player finds an Underworld Connections, they have an enormous edge right now.
Badham takes a draw. It's a copy of Thoughtseize, so he can see exactly what Turtenwald is holding here before considering firing from Mutavault. Here is Turtenwald's hand. He's got a Bio Blight, 2 copies of Thoughtseize to go along with a Grey Merchant and a Devour Flesh. So that's why we saw Owen take a moment there in the last turn, considering casting a Thoughtseize, but knowing the chances are Badham is just drawing lands and has nothing of relevance.
Yeah, if he had a spell to cast, he would have cast it.
Yeah. And there's a really high chance that those Thoughtseizes are just going to be dead for the rest of the game because, as you mentioned, if he had a spell, he would just cast it. And so every card that he draws, he'll probably just be able to cast unless it's a removal spell. But then again, Turtenwald doesn't have anything to actually remove right now.
Yeah, and if, Alex says go for a while, it's possible he can draw some removal spells that he can't cast. Owen may want to Thoughtseize him there. And also just keep in mind, Pack Rat's in his deck, so there's some argument for just keeping cards in his hand in a general sense.
Turtenwald draws and plays a Swamp, as Badham will actually draw and play a Temple of Malice. Top card's going to go to the bottom here for the Black-Red Devotion player. No Mutavaults will get fired up, and Turtenwald will just take a draw. It's a Swamp, and this is a Grey Merchant of Asphodel.
Not its most powerful here, but again, just something to put into play.
Yeah, it's a body. It's better than nothing, and Turtenwald is pretty sure that Badham has nothing in his hand right now, and he would be correct as you take a look at 4 Swamps in his hand. He's just going to pass the turn back without even playing a land. A little risky there not to play a land, just because if he does draw Connections, he might want to do something along the lines of play Connections, activate, and then be able to play the spell that he drew.
Right, yeah. There's still an argument, again, once card drawing's in your deck, to keep playing your land so you don't get bottlenecked.
Also, a big Rakdos' return wouldn't be the worst thing in the world right now either. But
oh, that's also true, yeah. That's a factor as well.
Turtenwald going to start by attacking here for 2, not going to activate the Mutavault. We'll see if Badham has anything, and he does not. He's going to go down to 10. Turtenwald going to play a swamp and just pass the turn back. Again, he's got 2 Thoughtseize, is refusing to cast them as Badham draws a card. There is Underworld Connection, so this could be a spot where it does come back to hurt him a little bit by holding those lands.
Yeah, Connections is still not a bad draw here, but it would have been better if he had more mana to work with this turn.
The big issue here is that, let's say, for example, he does activate Connections right now. If he draws a spell that he can't cast, you have to believe that Turtenwald is just going to fire off a Thoughtseize.
Exactly. And it prevents him from drawing something like Hero's Downfall this turn, too, which is a big deal.
Turtenwald is going to fire up that Mutavault now, knowing that things are safe, because he believes that Badham does not have anything to do. He's going to activate the Underworld Connections right now. Going to draw a copy of Erebos. And again, I would not be surprised at all if Turtenwald fires off a Thoughtseize now to see exactly what Badham did draw.
Especially with Badham not willing to block. I mean, that's the indicator something's up.
And there is Thoughtseize, so it's going to get that copy of Erebos. And you see Badham just does have 3 swamps, so that Underworld Connections is going to have to work overtime here, but he does not have a lot of life to play with as he's going to untap. He's going to take a draw. That's a copy of Grey Merchant. That's actually pretty good.
That's a good start. I mean, a drain for 4 here and a stable blocker is exactly what Alex needs.
And there is Grey Merchant. And it will drain and gain. Badham's going to go up to 13. Turtenwald looks like he's going to go down to 12. Excuse me, Badham's going to go up to 9. Untap, take a draw.
I'm not a fan of holding back these lands. Alex can very easily get into a position where he needs to cast multiple spells in a turn or cast a spell and activate Mutavault. He has more than enough cards to work with at this point, even if he does draw Pack Rat. So I think he needs to just get his mana into play.
Yeah, I'm not terribly sure. You know, there's a benefit to holding lands in this situation. You mentioned Pack Rat, but that's not even a card that he has in his deck list this particular week, and he's got Lifebane, Desecration Demons, and Grey Merchants.
Sure.
It would make sense if he had Pack Rat in his deck to hold lands, but given the situation that he doesn't have Pack Rat in his deck, holding lands, I think, is only going to hurt him in this situation. You see Grey Merchant's going to bite the dust to the Devour Flesh. Badham's going to gain a little bit of life, but Turtenwald's going to fire up these Mutavaults here. He's going to get in for 6 points of damage.
And Owen doing a great job of just identifying what he needs to do here. That Underworld Connections will run away with this game unchecked. The only thing Owen can do is go after Alec's life total, and so he's doing what he can.
Alec's going to draw a card with Underworld Connections. It's another swamp. He'll take a draw for his turn. It's another copy of Underworld Connections. So he's got to draw something of relevance now. He's going to start probably by activating Connections, too. He's going to go down to 5. So the draw here is just another swamp. Wow. A lot of lands here for him this game. And, you know, it's tough to say had he been playing lands, but he'd have a shot in this game. Because, you know, maybe he could deploy the other Connections and, you know, draw a card and do something of that nature. Looks like he will deploy the other Connections right now. Just pass the turn back over to Turtenwald. At 5 life, Owen will draw a card. Looks like he found another copy of Grey Merchant.
That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, that'll probably close the door on this one. Chances are. You know, Turtenwald's going to go through the iterations of what Badham can have in this situation just to make sure nothing goes wrong. He will cast the Grey Merchant pre-combat. It's going to be a draining gain for 4. Turtenwald up to 16. Badham down to 1. 5 from Mutavault. Attack with 2 attackers. And that is going to do it. So Owen Turtenwald is going to win game number 1 here. Mono Black Devotion up a game over Black Red Devotion. And we'll take a look at the sideboards. We're going to start with Badham's deck list, and you do have that in front of you.
A Dark Betrayal, 3 Farika's Cures, 3 Duresses, 2 Doomblades, 2 Slaughter Gains, another Erebos, a Rakdos Return, and 2 Mizium Mortars. I would anticipate the Rakdos Return coming in, the additional copy of Erebos, and the Dark Betrayal, of course. I'm not sure if he's going to want to go all the way to Mizium Mortars. Often the black decks are bringing in a lot of duress type effects on top of Thoughtseize, so it's a little risky to have situational reactive cards in your hand, as they're often susceptible to discard spells. But the proactive cards like Rakdos' Return and Erebos and Dark Betrayal is a very flexible removal spell. I think those are going to come in. I think the Duresses as well.
Other side of things here for Mr. Turtenwald, you've got 4 Doomblades. Those will stay on the bench. 4 Duress are likely to come in, along with some number of Ereboses. He has 3 copies of them. I don't know if he's going to want all 3 or not. It does play a pretty big role in the matchup, but 3 is a lot to go along with 2 Whip of Erebos, a Farika's Cure and 1 copy of Pithing Needle. Not sure if he wants Whip either. The 1 Cure is okay at controlling Pack Rat, but if Owen is familiar with the Black Rat Devotion list that Eric Froelich played at the Grand Prix along with this one here that Badham is playing, chances are no Pack Rats and then just the 1 Needle, which can play a bit of a role in this matchup, but Needle is obviously symmetrical, so we'll see if he does want to board that in or not.
Yeah, the copies of Erebos is something I'm really curious about because on one hand, the matchup is about card advantage. It matters a lot. And fulfilling Devotion on the card isn't that hard either once you have Underworld Connections up and running. But unlike your matchup with Esper, your life total is a resource. It does matter. You can't just play all life in the world. You are getting hit by random creatures, and Mutavault's a factor. Great Merchant obviously can generate some really big swings as well. So I think ultimately he is going to want them, but they aren't quite as good in this matchup as they are against a deck like Esper or Blue-White.
Oh. I'm always interested to see exactly how Turtenwald does, choose to play in sideboard with this deck, because he's arguably just the go-to when it comes to mono black Devotion. He was one of the people who brought Staff of the Death Magus to the forefront as an option to the sideboard for this deck to counteract burn decks, and Watanabe and Shuhei Nakamura used that to great effect last weekend in Beijing. So while he doesn't have that card this weekend, you can believe that he is the most intimately familiar with this archetype.
Yeah, and his list is essentially the same one that he used to win Albuquerque. I mean, 2 Bio Blights replaced 2 Farika's Cures in the main deck. Sideboard's a little bit different, but this is really close.
I generally enjoy that he hasn't done anything crazy to this deck. We see a lot of mono black deck lists with varying numbers and, some one-ofs and some cool sideboard cards and stuff like that. But Turtenwald's list is just pedal to the metal, about as straightforward as you can be with all 4-ofs, 2 Bio Blights replacing the 2 Farika's Cures that you'd mentioned. This is a metagame where he wants to play Lifebane Zombie instead of Nightveil Spectre, so he's doing that. And he's just still got 19 Swamps, 4 Mutavaults, and 3 Temples, be it Silence or Deceit. And there you go, let's go.
Yeah, I really also like just having Devour Flesh in place of something like Ultimate Price or like Doomblade, the way the metagame is right now, because a lot of decks are trying to adapt to those removal spells or play around them. And the place where Mono Black Devotion gets into trouble is it got through the first 2 turns and it's really far behind.
Yep.
And one of the ways that can come up is your removal spell on turn 2 can't target the creature that they played. They play a Sylvan Caryatid and you have a Doomblade in your hand, or they played Frostburn weird and you have Ultimate Price in your hand. Those are the type of exchanges where the black deck can't catch back up, because it's essentially just casting 1 spell a turn until it's able to stabilize and turn the corner. And so having Devour Flesh means that you just you don't care about the text box on your opponent's card. You just cast it no matter what they cast, and so much of Mono Black's power comes from the fact that they don't care that much about opponents' text boxes.
Yeah, it's a choice that he's been employing for some time now. There is definitely a time and a place to play Ultimate Price and or Doomblade, or some combination of the 2 in varying numbers, but he's just going with something very simple. 4 Heroes Downfall, 4 Devour Flesh, 2 Bio Blight, a couple of discard spells, some sweet creatures, Underworld Connections to draw cards, just kind of go from there.
Yeah.
Really just a straightforward, simple approach. Now, that being said, even though the deck list is all 4-ofs and then 2 Bio Blights, it's a very difficult deck to actually play appropriately.
Oh, sure. It's definitely not easy to play.
It may seem straightforward on the surface, but the difference between Owen Turtenwald playing this deck and just someone else is it's night and day.
I think the biggest thing is identifying spots where you need a damage race.
Yep.
The deck does have the ability to shift gears and start beating down pretty fast. Incremental damage from Mutavaults can add up once Grey Merchant's in the equation, and being able to identify the spots where it is going to come down to damage racing, and when you have to be more proactive instead of just sitting on your heels, I think that's the big separating tool.
Turtenwald going to be on the draw here. Badham going to be on the play. We'll see what the Black-Red Devotion player can find this go around. We're going to see a lot of discard spells likely go back and forth here.
I guess the Lifebane Zombie over Nightveil Spectre is the closest thing to a metagame declaration that Owen is making.
Yeah, but it seems like, at this point, everyone's moved towards the direction of Lifebane Zombie instead of Nightveil Spectre, so he's just kind of just doing what everybody else is doing, as he's going to send it back as well, so both players are going to go down to 6.
Yeah, there's still some controversy about that. With Red starting to pick up a little bit of popularity, that's an argument for Nightveil Spectre, because a 3 toughness flyer is good against Chandra's Phoenix and a variety of other threats as well, whereas Lifebane Zombie is just nonsense against those decks.
Yeah.
So that's another tipping point.
I do enjoy that the red decks are just basically brickwalled by a 2-3 on turn 3. They're just, I can't do anything.
Oh, you gotta have Maka.
Yeah.
Otherwise that thing is just a flying moat.
Yeah. That or a lightning striker, you lose the game.
Yep.
Which is, just says a lot about the red deck right now.
Oh yeah, the 2-3 is really like Hurloon Minotaur would get some work done in the Red Mirror match.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's a new There's a sweet new red card coming on the horizon. I don't know what it needs to be.
And I guess Fellhide Minotaur exists already. We could already go to that
yeah,
stage.
You could.
You Esper players looking to improve your mono red matchup out there.
Go get a 2/3 text list.
Yeah.
There it is.
You can play the return to Phalanx, the 3/3 wall for
can't
2.
beat that either.
No.
Yeah.
that is game.
I generally enjoy that, the red deck, like, its best card. I remember when Ashley got a print, everyone's like, oh my goodness.
Yep.
This card is fantastic, and it's not even good in the deck and doesn't even see play.
Yeah. And the problem with the card is it's too powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't play it.
It is red for a 2/2 with haste. That is not going to cut it. And Badham's going to take another mulligan down here to 5. See, let's get that red deck something. I don't think it needs. Does it need to be a spell or a creature?
That's fine.
Is either one's fine?
It's fine as it is.
No, it needs a little juice. We need a little more power in there.
That's fine.
Maybe a Hell's Thunder reprint. Would that do anything for you?
I never even liked those kind of cards.
Wow, tough crowd here. My goodness. It's like a bestow card. You get to use it early and late.
It's like a reverse bestow card.
Yeah, you get to use it early and late. There's also just like no flexibility.
Yeah. As opposed to being powerful against blockers and removal, it's really bad against blockers and removal. So it's like a reverse bestow card, essentially.
If you got Ball Lightning back, would that do anything for you?
Yeah, I'd be in the market.
You probably couldn't play Mutavault then, though.
Then you play them both.
That's really aggressive.
I mean, there's been Pro Tour winning decks with Ball Lightning, or I don't know Pro Tour winning decks necessarily, but 18 Mountain 4 Wasteland and Ball Lightning has been a thing that's won tournaments. So
all right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Maybe Ball Lightning is the answer Red's looking for. Who knows? You guys can chime in at SCG Live, hashtag SCGMKE.
It would be
Let us know.
It would be a really weird reprint to put into the last set of a block.
I mean, it has nothing to do with like Theros and enchantments. We can just make it an enchantment.
Yeah,
there you go. Call it like I don't know what you call it to make it enchantment themed, but that's what you can do. Just make it
Ferocious Elemental.
Bang.
Bang.
You should design cards for a living.
Yeah,
that's what you should do. That's a really good idea. All right, we're underway. This is going to be a discard spell. It's a Thoughtseize. Turtenwald going to lay out his hand. He's got the Whip of Erebos, Devour Flesh, Erebos itself, and a bunch of lands. So not a lot of early interaction here for Turtenwald to start. He would be a little soft to a Pack Rat here if Badham did take the Devour Flesh, but Badham doesn't actually have Pack Rat in his deck. So smooth sailing here for Turtenwald.
Alex's hand is a little rough here. He needs to draw 2 lands in a row to have any sort of shot, and he's definitely in a lot of trouble if this Erebos is hit by a discard spell.
See if Badham wants to select. He's taking a look at the Whip, the Erebos itself, and the Devour Flesh. None of these cards are really all that troubling at this point in time.
Whenever I see a god alongside its equipment, its weapon, I feel very happy.
Yeah, just like for a flavor.
Yeah.
There goes the Whip. Turtenwald just going to play Mutavault and pass the turn back. Maybe preparing, to attack on turn 2. There's land number 1 there for Badham, so he's a little bit closer to Erebos as he does play a Swamp. Drew a Swamp for the turn, passes the turn back. Turtenwald just going to play a Swamp. He'll pass the turn over back to Badham, who does draw a card, and it's a Thoughtseize. All right.
Pretty solid.
Going to fire it off.
Pretty solid mulligan to 5 here.
Yeah. See Turtenwald, another Devour Flesh is what he picked up. I think you got to take Erebos in this situation, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you have a path to win this game. Just sticking Erebos, stranding Owen with a bunch of removal spells, and eventually just finding stuff to kill him with.
Turtenwald is going to draw a card. It's a copy of Bile Blight, so he is stuck with a bunch of removal. Pass the turn back. Can Badham draw the 4th land on time? He does. Wow. We got ourselves a ball game here. There's Erebos.
I think we're more than we have a ball game. I think Owen's in trouble.
Turtenwald with a big draw there. It's under World Connections. He'll play that on a Swamp and pass the turn back over to Badham, who will take a draw. This is a copy of Devour Flesh to go along with, I believe, a Lifebane Zombie in his hand right now. And it looks like he's going to deploy that Lifebane Zombie. How do you feel about this as opposed to drawing cards?
I think he's got to draw cards. At least one card. I can understand not wanting to tap out because, you go to 12, your life total's a little low. Owen has a Mutavault in play, but I think you had to at least try to draw one card here.
Turtenwald going to activate his Underworld Connections, and he'll draw a card for his turn.
Because the most likely thing that happens this turn is Owen kills your Lifebane Zombie, draws a card, and hits you with Mutavault. That's a pretty rough turn.
See, he'll start by activating Underworld Connections and drawing a card. Temple of Silence among the other cards in his hand. We know he has 2 copies of Devour Flesh along with a Bile Blight. Interesting to see exactly what removal spell he wants to fire off here. assuming that he even does want to fire one off, which I'd be surprised if he didn't, and he will. So there is Bile Blight to take care of that. Mutavault going to get active, and everything you thought was going to happen did happen.
This is a really rough turn for Alec.
Alec going to take a draw here. It's a copy of Mutavault. He can get that into play. See if he wants to activate Erebos now or later.
Yeah, I like waiting on activating Erebos here, as it's very unlikely you find something proactive to cast this turn, and he wants to have mana at the ready to react to Owen's turn potentially, and also if he draws at the end of Owen's turn, he can blunt the impact of something like Duress or Thoughtseize.
Turtenwald going to tap some mana. Another copy of Underworld Connection, just happily passing the turn back. So, Badham. Is it time to activate Erebos? And if so, how many times? At least once as he goes down to 12.
Again, like I mentioned during sideboarding, the life total is not free. Owen's getting to a position now where if he finds Grey Merchant of Asphodel, it's a ton of damage. Of course, he doesn't gain any life, but Owen's life total is fairly high right now.
Adam draws a copy of Desecration Demon. Looks like he's going to get the 6/6 into play. Turtenwald going to activate Underworld Connections, go down to 17. He'll draw a card. Let's make it 16, shall we, for another card.
And also with these Underworld Connections in play, if Owen is able to find his own copy of Erebos, he has a huge threat.
Yep, it will already be live. So Turtenwald definitely ahead on the cards here.
Erebos is good in the mirror, but Connections is still the most efficient tool for drawing extra cards.
See the Dreadborn, the Devour Flesh there in Badham's hand. There's a Swamp. That's a Devour Flesh. Badham going to activate a Mutavault here. Says with that on the stack, take care of your Desecration Demon so you don't get to gain 6 life. Now Devour Flesh will take care of the Mutavault. Turtenwald in the driver's seat now.
Great sequencing there by Owen, yeah.
Badham going to draw a card. It's another copy of Mutavault. He's just going to play that, see if he activates Erebos on his main phase or not.
Again, there's not really that much for him to find right now. If he draws Lifebane Zombie, he can cast it, but that's unlikely to make much of an impact.
Yeah. Turtenwald going to activate Underworld Connections twice. He's going to draw some cards here, using his life total as a resource. You can really see he's just in the driver's seat now. The hand he kept may not have seemed that great, but it was a hand that was not, it was a hand that, was very good against discard spells. Erebos Whip and a removal spell. If you've got discard, which, the person's going to have a lot of those effects in the mirror in between 7 to 9, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because what he's got is lands to actually cast the spells when he does draw them. I think that's the most important part there from Turtenwald. You have to imagine he's looking for a land-heavy hand in the sideboarded games.
Yeah, blunts the impact of the early discard spells, and mana is just the most valuable resource. A lot of the spells are just interchangeable, besides the ones that draw cards.
Turtenwald going to tap some mana here. Looks like we might see a Grey Merch. We do.
And I like this. Given the state of the game, you see Owen with Pack Rat in hand, but given the stage of the game, this Grey Merchant represents a lot of damage. It forces a removal spell out of Alec, so you can't handle it on board, and you're just clearing the way for Pack Rat to potentially take over from after the fact.
Erebos activation is going to put Alec down to 6. Looks like he picked up a copy of Desecration Demon, I believe. I'll take another draw here. It's a Duress. No red mana for that Dreadbore. Probably has to fire up the discard spell. And actually, he just picked up back-to-back Duresses. So his life total is going to be under Duress here a little bit. But he's going to start by actually casting Duress, targeting Turtenwald. You see 2 copies of Devour Flesh along with 2 copies of Pack Rat.
Just not a lot of help here.
Nope. And even though he was able to deploy Erebos on time, doesn't look like it was going to be enough to get the job done, as Devour Flesh will be discarded to the other copy of Duress. And Badham probably just has to pass the turn back. Nothing too great to do.
Yeah, but it's rough if he taps out to, Devour Flesh away one of Owen's creatures, then it's clear sailings for Mutavault to hit.
Yep. You see 2 connections activations. Turtenwald going to untap. He'll take a draw. He's got 2 Pack Rats, a Swamp ×2, and a mystery card hiding. And he's going to draw a couple more cards here now. See main phase activations just go around, probably searching out a Grey Merchant to get the job done.
Yeah, if he can find it this turn, it makes life a lot easier. Still in a very comfortable position, even if he doesn't, but might as well give it a shot.
He's going to fire at Mutavault. In we go. Badham going to activate Mutavault of his own. Going to try to block. He'll get to. And you're going to see you're going to see the mana get tapped here for a Devour Flesh. Turtenwald would probably just sacrifice the Mutavault, right?
Yeah. Owen can just get rid of the Mutavault here.
So it was going to be blocked and kill Mutavault anyway. Now, you could sacrifice Grey Merchant with the intention of, all right, well, if that's the case, you know, then your Mutavault's going to die, but Turtenwald doesn't care too much about that, as he's just going to play Pack Rat now with enough mana to activate it and pass the turnover back to Badham, who will draw a copy of Desecration Demon. And as good as the 6/6 flyer is, you can see in the mirror match, it's not at its best.
It's very rare that Desecration Demon takes over a game. If it does, it's because other things have happened. Someone's draws failed, or they've run away with card advantage, or whatever else.
See a Pack Rat activation from Turtenwald. He'll draw a card. You're going to see him go through the iterations here just to make sure that he's got this one done with. Going to play a Pack Rat pre-combat to pump the others, sacrifice that to Desecration Demon. That'll become a 7/7, and this will be a lethal attack. And that is going to do it. Owen Turtenwald is going to win this match over Alec Badham. 2-0. The Mono Black Devotion Master does it again. Moves on to 3-1.
Was just a little bit more efficient with his mana. Seemed a lot more certain of himself how he wanted to pace the game.